After the House returns following the President's Day, we intend to introduce legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. It has become increasingly clear that this law is collapsing.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it's the Republican agenda in Congress that's collapsing. Republicans have been talking, as you know, about repealing Obamacare since it passed in 2010, and Donald Trump has been talking about it since he started running, including again today. But Obamacare is one of the issues that's been on the back burner as the administration deals with the chaotic travel ban and the even more chaotic firing of National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Here's how today's Times describes what's happening on Capitol Hill. Quote, "The Senate has done little more than struggle to confirm Mr. Trump's nominees. The House has spent most of its time picking off a series of deregulation measures. The inactivity stems from a lack of clear policy guidance and just as often contradictory messages from the Trump administration, which does not appear to have spent the campaign and transition periods forming a legislative wish list." Well, one of the big things that's getting neglected is tax reform. The president has spoken about it, but so far we've had no movement on it. He promised more in the weeks to come. Bill, I'm starting with you again as the representative of the GOP at the table. How much of this, with all the talk we heard about repeal and replace for the last 6 years, 7 years, you would think that that would have been ready to go on day one, as would have the entire Republican agenda. What's going on?
I'll just say on the Obamacare, if they're saying it can't be rushed, don't rush it. If they wanted to rush it, for political sake, and you ended up with a catastrophe out there, don't do it.
I got to push back on you because 2010 is when we started hearing about repeal and replace.
I agree.
Rushing it is 7 years later.
I agree, but if they're saying they're not ready to do it, then don't do something foolhardy by just trying to check the box.
Well, what have they
Fine.
been doing?
But I do agree with you.
Bill?
I do agree with you that for the fourth time in U.S. history, Republicans have had both houses of Congress and a president. And they're squandering that. Every day that they're not putting things through, they're squandering it. They could have done the business tax, the overseas business tax. They could have done it the first day. But we're talking about executive orders and all the junk all the shiny objects that come out of the Trump administration every day. They're wasting time here.
Hearing a lot of talk that this was a lot of electoral stuff, but nobody was focused on the policy, and clearly nobody's been focused on the policy on Obamacare, in addition to all these other things. I mean, is there any way to explain this other than the GOP dropping the ball?
I think what's going to have to happen is Ryan and McConnell are going to have to take the lead on it because Trump doesn't seem to be doing it. And I think, Paul Ryan's a policy guy.
Don't make this a political fight.
It is.
They don't have a good way of replacing it. That's the problem.
Saying they should take their time to do it. If they're going to fix it.
No, I'm saying they've had 7 years and they can't come up with anything to replace it with. It's a pretty good system.
No, I think if they undo parts of it and they don't have something to replace it that's viable, you can have a disaster.
They've had 7 years to develop the replacement. They haven't. And that's Andrew's point, if I may be so bold.
You may.
The point of it is that after yelling and screaming, we're going to replace it, we're going to repeal it, we're going to replace it.
If it's so good,
where's
why did
your ideas?
Humana just pull out? Why,
oh, no,
why
there are problems with it.
Yeah.
Bill, I'm
so
sorry.
It's not so perfect.
You're deflecting off the original point.
No,
it's
I'm not.
Yes, you are, because it's not whether Obamacare is good or bad or will succeed or fail on its own. But for 7 years, Republicans have been saying repeal and replace.
Right.
Where's the replace? And why? And if they haven't been able to push it so far, that means they don't have one.
You probably have five different ideas out there. Ryan's got a plan. He's had one for years. That's on the table.
He doesn't.
Yes, he's had
He
it
has
for
a plan
years.
to repeal it first, and then we'll work out the details of.
He's had a plan for three and a half years. He's had a plan in there. But Trump needs to lead, and they have to get their act together and match up the Senate bill, the House bill, and with the president's
Assemblyman,
bill.
what's your take on the delay on
But
Obamacare?
every day that the Republicans don't do something about Obamacare, what they've been talking about for 7 years, it becomes clearer and clearer that all their rhetoric was rhetoric. It was a campaign issue to get votes. Now, they stumbled upon, they're in power now, and they don't know what to do because it was little more than a campaign speech a topic.
Dominic, you've covered a lot of different administrations and a lot of different Congresses. Can you recall, how does this compare in terms of preparedness for it and ready with the agenda to other administrations, other Congresses that you've seen?
Now, how do I answer that and try to make it not sound like I'm against the president? This has got to be the worst agenda-driven administration thus far, keywords, thus far, that we have ever seen. How can they move forward with an agenda, the Republicans with Trump, when we're looking at a Russia issue and I will use the word, that looks like it could lead to possibility of impeachment when it's all said and done. We've got executive orders that are disrupting the entire world. And so now we're going back and redoing executive orders, and we're looking like John Wayne signing it at the end of week 1, week 2, and they got to redo it. So how can you have a legislative agenda? How can you go forward with anything? McConnell and the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, I'm going to let you go. They're trying to keep their heads down because this guy, this president
had a
with
legislative agenda. Republicans in the House had bills ready to go. That's right. They're not pushing them forward. You know why? Because they don't work.
No, but I agree with that. But the key word that Bill said, and you got to pay close attention. The 3 systems, you got to have some unison. Am I right? And they don't have the unison right now. If McConnell and Ryan go to the White House, how can you look at today's news conference? How can you have an agenda when the President of the United States stands up and goes off the way he did today?
It's not about administration, it's about having good ideas. The Republicans have claimed their ideas were good. Now that they are in power, it turns out they've always known the ideas aren't any good. And I'm not just talking about Obamacare, I'm talking about tax reform. You really want to cut the revenues to the United States by 1/3 and see the deficit blow out?
It would be a slam dunk to cut the corporate tax rate and bring money back from overseas. It would be a slam dunk. He should have opened up with that.
It would be a one-shot.
Where's the
And
slam
$1 trillion.
Why haven't they dunked the ball? That's
I agree.
A slam dunk. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Bridgegate is back in the news, and Chris Christie is back in the picture. A judge just found probable cause to investigate the governor, and we just got reactions from some big names in New Jersey. Stay with us.